Welcome to Less Than 15, a show for busy business owners brought to you by DFK Australia, New Zealand. Each week we deliver bite-sized, actionable insights from industry experts so you're across the issues that really matter. I'm your host, Angela Rasmus. Let's dive into this week's topic. Hello and welcome. I'm excited today because we have Donna McGeorge with us. Now, Donna is all about productivity and efficiency, but what she's most passionate about, and I love this description, it's of helping you create the space and the capacity to do what's most important. And as a business owner, there are 100 different things that are grabbing you from every direction. And one of the things we want to focus on today to take the teeth out of meetings and meetings and meetings, we're going to be talking about how to make them shorter, sharper, smarter, and better. So welcome, Donna, and thank you for your time here today.
Thanks, Angela. Absolute pleasure.
Well, let's just dive straight in and make this short and sharp, shall we? Why do we need to escape what we're referring to as the cult of 60-minute meetings? Why do we want to make them shorter and better? What's wrong with the way they are now?
Oh, I reckon anyone who's listening right now would know that you probably waste a good 5 to 10 minutes up front for people who were late or came to something else or came from somewhere else or whatever. Then there's a chunk that you waste at the end where people say, sorry, I can't stop, I got to run off, I've got other things to do. Good. And so I say, let's just cut right to that chase. The reason we have 60 minutes is because that was the original default setting in most email and calendar products. But you can change that. I suggest you do.
That makes perfect sense that we default to the norm because we're used to it. It's a habit, but there is a way through. If we're cutting down to 45 minutes, which is the real guts of the meeting, we're creating this sense of urgency and clarity.
Yes, that's because there's something that happens to people when you sit down and you go, right, we've only got 25 minutes. It's like they go, okay, and they get into it. I remember I was working for a very large manufacturing organization, and I noticed that when people sat down at the meeting and someone said, I got a hard stop at 12:30, everyone would immediately jump to attention and the focus of those meetings would be so much better. I thought, I wonder if you could play with that. So I started saying, I got a hard stop at 12, and boom, everyone starts paying attention. My hard stop was lunch, but they didn't know that, right? But this idea that when we create a sense of urgency, it also creates a sense of scarcity. So we've got a short amount of time. We better get on with it. When we dial in clarity, what we're there to talk about, now we've got meetings on steroids.
And that makes perfect sense, that dialing in and getting focused. Is there any concerns we have here that if we have to shorten things and get really sharp and to the point, we could miss the creative aspect, that the potential for other ideas might be just taken off the plate because we've got that shorter time span?
Look, it could be, but I'm going to say horses for courses. If you need people to have the space, dare I say, and capacity, because creativity is important, then I reckon you'd be struggling to get that even in a 60-minute meeting, right? You need to give people space. And the other thing that a lot of people forget about is that creativity isn't just sitting and putting your head back and, hands behind your head and just like, oh, I wonder what I could come up with. Most of the times when we're trying to be creative or innovative, we need a framework to guide us through that. And so you'll probably have more success in a 25-minute meeting if you provide a framework for idea generation than just saying, let's just allow random space to let our minds wander, because they just don't. So I think that's a bit of a fallacy also, this notion that creativity needs, almost unconstrained. In fact, constraints are nearly required to be able to get really great creative thinking happening.
And I think that does ring true for me. I think what we're talking about here is challenging the norms, because it's just, if it's always been done this way, then we'll just continue to do it this way. So if we're thinking about a business owner where there are different types of meetings that they may have to call, do you find that the 25-minute meeting can work no matter what the goal we're looking through here, whether it's just purely operational or whatever different situations perhaps you've come across?
So the best criteria is they are just operational meetings with maybe 5 to 7 people, and you want no more, particularly if it's online, you certainly don't want more than 7. But the moment you get more, you got too many people that might want to have a say, and that just will take up too much time. So you have a
Yeah.
longer meeting. I'm thinking about your day-to-day, one-on-one, two-on-one, 4 or 5 people in a meeting discussing some operational aspect of our work. I don't think anyone can do a 25-minute strategy, right? And this is not the time for performance reviews that might need a bit more detailed conversation, diving in and coaching and those kinds of things. No, this is just your BAU every day, the kind of meetings that fill up your day before you know it.
Yeah, that was the thought that I was thinking. Like, there's a particular rule that says that the work will expand to fit the
Oh,
time
yeah.
that you make available to it. There's a principle
Yeah,
there, isn't it?
Parkinson's law.
Thank
Parkinson's
you.
law.
I knew that there was one there. So this makes perfect sense. So we've got all these business as usual, the meetings that has to happen, the meetings that you see in your calendar with a bit of a, oh, here we go. So we know that by making them shorter, we are also making them better because we are more
Yes.
focused, because
Yes.
we are not faffing about. We're getting to the point. Everyone is
Yep.
there. They're not resenting the fact that it's taking a big chunk out of their day. So all of those benefits sound really enticing. But how do we make the shift from these longer meetings to these shorter ones? You mentioned before that there's some good insights you can share, and perhaps how we can set people up for success and facilitate these
Awesome.
well.
So the first thing you can do is, you don't need permission. Just in case you do, permission granted for any meetings that you are in control of, to go ahead and make them 25 minutes straight up. You just say this meeting starts at 9, goes to 9:25. The second thing you can do is, in that little meeting request you send out, from now on and for the rest of your life, I want you to put the following sentence in there. Something like, by the end of this meeting, it would be great if, and you put a couple of bullet points in there. So, Angela, when you and I were setting up this call, it would have said, can we have a quick chat? At the end of this meeting, it would be great if we've got ourselves an outline that we can use for the podcast recording. Awesome. So, because a lot of people push back around, where's the time for nicety? Does that mean we're diving into a meeting and getting straight to business? And I'm here to tell you, I've been running 25-minute meetings for nearly 10 years. And I've always had time to jump on and go, hi, how are the kids? How was your vacay? How are your dogs? All the stuff we do, because we know the purpose. And so then we jump into, okay, so we needed to do this, let's get started. And I got to tell you, it's a rare time that we don't get it done in 25 minutes or less, even being nice with each other and checking in as humans.
And that idea of that magical sentence, by the end of this meeting, it would be great if. I've heard, and I'm not in corporate world these days, being a small business owner, but I've heard a lot of people saying, what are we even having this meeting for? And you hear that
what
a
are we
lot.
even here
What's
for,
the
and
point?
why me?
Yeah.
And what am I meant to be doing? And so I say, when you say to people, by the end of this meeting, it would be great if, so that's part one. Then the next one is, and here's what I need each of you to do or bring or prepare. And so you might say, attached is the presentation I'm going to give. I need you to have a read of it and be ready to answer these 3 questions. That could be a slightly longer meeting. And so I want to say that, I'm a huge fan of 25-minute meetings, of course. But if you just want better meetings, let people know why they're coming and what you expect of them. In my experience, this is exacerbated massively online, but for the most part, you don't tell people why they're there. They show up in a passive posture.
Yes. No,
they just wait for you
that.
to run the show, right?
So you got a body in the chair, but you don't necessarily have a person in the chair, so to speak.
Or a body on the screen who is pretending that they're there, but they're kind of just over here doing their email and glancing across every 5 minutes. So because you haven't time. So here's, by the end of this meeting, it would be great if we've made a decision, got alignment, agreed next steps. Here's the presentation. Can you please come ready to answer what you're working on, what's blocking you, what help you need, whatever the questions are.
Yeah,
and then people know why they're there and what they need to do.
So that concept of the passive posture or the passive phenomena, that's really someone who doesn't feel as though they are engaged because they haven't been given a good reason for being here. They haven't given it any thought beforehand of what it is that they're going to contribute. So this is really down to the organizer of the meeting to set people up for success.
Yeah. So too often you get a meeting request says, let's just talk about the less than 15 show. And so we all show up, but we don't really know what we're going to talk about. So whereas if it says Angela's called this meeting to talk about the less than 15 show, and it says by the end of this meeting, we will have agreed the next lot of topics. brainstormed some potential guests and put a plan in place for when we're going to kick off season 2 or 3 or whatever season you might be up to. And so please come prepared with your favorite book, the problems you're hearing in business right now, and maybe a speaker or someone you've heard you think is awesome. And so I know how I need to show up.
And that's a really good point, because being creative on demand like that. So come on, who's got some ideas? Who's got some ideas?
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Yeah.
And I'm sure that I can feel some of our listeners going, oh, I've done that. I've been guilty of doing exactly that, as we all have, until we're exposed to this new way of approaching it. So there is a concept I've heard you speak of, which is scan, focus, and act strategy, and how we use that to facilitate the meetings more effectively. Could you touch on that for us?
Sure. So this is really good if you've got a whip meeting or you're trying to get everyone's point of view on a particular piece. So it's there are 3 steps in the meeting. Scan comes first, and the best way to scan is to quite literally put a timer on, and you say to people, you've got 1 minute just to bring me up to date on what's going on in your part of the world on this topic. So again, if we're talking about the Less Than 15 show, we've got 7 people in the room. So everyone's got 1 minute to bring us up to speed on what they reckon's going on with that topic.
Yeah.
So your job as the meeting convener is to listen and find the areas of focus. That's the next part, focus, which is what are the common things. So maybe everyone said, I couldn't think of anyone. Or, we asked 10 people and they said no. And so you think, okay, 3 of you asked 10 people and they said no. Okay, we got a problem with our messaging around what we're asking for. Now that's the act. That's what we'll now talk about. So it's kind of like, I know a lot of people will be cringy when they hear this, but you're nearly creating the agenda after you've done the scan, right? So a lot of people say, no agenda, no meeting. But I'm like, some meetings, let's do the scan first. What's going on for everyone? Now I hear what's the pattern, connections, commonalities, and then we end up trying to solve those problems in the meeting.
I really like that concept. Yeah, to me that sounds like a responsive agenda. You've set the parameters by here's what we're talking about and here's what we're aiming for, but by doing that scan and that quick evaluation, then suddenly you're now talking about the things that are most important, be it the roadblocks, the challenges, or the good parts on this particular topic. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So last quick question, are there any common pitfalls that we need to be aware of when we've made the choice, because we don't need permission, we've given it to ourselves, to change to this different format for our WIP and our business as usual meetings? Any pitfalls we need to be aware of?
Yes. If you're convening the meeting, don't rely on anyone else to do that work for you. You do that work. You'll have a much better result if you do that. So don't wait for the culture to change. Don't wait for other people to take action. You to do it, and you to be the driver of your bus when you're going in there. That's the first one. The second one that most people fall into is, instead of then having 8 one-hour meetings over an 8-hour period, they then cram 16 25-minute meetings. So the idea here is we want fewer, better meetings. So in a 1-hour kind of rotation of the clock, you want 1 25-minute meeting, which gives you time to decompress from it, to catch up on a bit of work, check your email, and then prepare for the next meeting that you go to. And so, just don't fall into the trap of now just doing a gazillion back-to-back meetings. This is about 1 meeting per hour for 25 minutes.
That's fantastic. Well, Donna, thank you so much. I love this idea of like shortening meetings so that we do have more space and capacity for what counts. Appreciate your time very much, and also the fact that we have a great resource that'll be downloadable on the DFK ANZ website, where you've put some great content to reinforce how to make this transition to shorter, better meetings. So thanks for your time.
Indeed. Thanks for having me.
And to you, our lovely listener, pop over to the website, grab that resource, transform the way that you do meetings. We'll talk to you again on next week's episode. Until then, take care. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Less Than 15 and have a fresh idea or two to take action on. Hit the subscribe button so you catch every bite-sized business bulletin. And we'd love you to leave a review or perhaps share the episode with a friend. Less Than 15 is brought to you by Accountants and Business Advisors, DFK, Australia, New Zealand. helping business owners make better decisions through local knowledge, national connections, and global reach. We'll be back next week with more valuable insights to help you and your business grow.